Good morning.
Well, good morning, Jeff Grant. How are you?
Hey, Babz, how you doing?
Oh, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Criminal Justice Insider. This is our 3-year end of season wrap party. Thank you, Jeff, for doing this, for saying we should do this.
You know, Babz, when we first came up with this idea, it was pre-COVID. So we didn't really know how we were going to get this many people in a room. So life has presented us with the opportunity, and here we are.
Here we are in virtual world. Oh, where's my daggone sign?
Let's see the sign. There we go.
Let me put my sign up so that it is you can see it a little bit.
Oh, there you go. Nice.
All right. And hi, everybody. It was great seeing all those pictures.
Yeah, Harry did a beautiful job with the roll. You know, we got to get him to send it to us.
I had forgotten about all those 3 years, so many guests. It was so, I was like, oh my God, we had that person. So, and thank you to the Community Foundation for Greater New Haven for riding shotgun with us for these 3 years.
Yeah.
It's been an amazing sort of journey. And for all the folks that have come on with their authenticity and truth and sharing. And I think we've done a really good job of letting people know that the criminal justice is not just people going to jail and coming out of jail, that there is a whole universe around this work, and that there are people who are tirelessly working on behalf of people who are incarcerated and coming out from under incarceration. So to all those that do that work, thank you.
And lots of human stories, Babz. You know,
lots of human stories.
It's unbelievable how I don't think that even you and I appreciated the vastness and the ability for people to just go deep, you know, and want to share their authenticity right out there with the public, you know, and just risk that kind of vulnerability and all. So I'm grateful, and I couldn't think of anyone I'd rather have done this with than you for the last 3 years.
Thank you, Jeff Grant. That's pretty good. Nice microphone, by the way.
oh, thank you. Oh yeah, this is my birthday present.
You got all the good gadgets. I have no good gadgets. I'm on my Fire tablet because my desktop is temperamental and won't let me deal with it today. So I was like, all right.
Yeah, we have a lot of guests on tonight, Babz. Today we have maybe 30, 35 confirmations. So I have no idea who's going to actually pop on. Some of them are on now. I want to make sure that we shout out to our loved ones, Andrew and Lynn.
Yes, who have been so supportive of this effort. You know, always supportive, always kind words, you know, always around when we needed them, always our sounding boards.
Always telling us when we screw up.
always telling when you screw up.
When I screw up, right.
Well, I'm gonna leave you alone in that one. Well, but they're always there and always willing to help us do this work.
Well, Lynn's on right now. Lynn, you want to say hello?
Yes. Good morning, everybody.
Hey, darling.
I want to tell you too, I love you to bits, and I applaud your courage, because this is not easy stuff to talk about and to go deep with. So, amen. Amen to you both.
Well, thank you, beautiful one, for hanging with us.
Oh, it has not been an easy road. No, it's been rocky. It's been rocky, but for sure it's been worth it. Oh, for sure.
Well, thank you.
Making healing happen and some new good stuff going on. And I don't believe in living in the darkness. So you guys are shedding light on some real important stuff for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you.
Lynn's had a double barrel, Babz, because not only has she been the the spouse of someone who went to prison, but she's the spouse of a minister. I'm not sure which one is more difficult.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think that tops it all is just, in general, spouse of Jeff Grant. Yeah, something. He is you know that, Babz.
I feel like I want to give you an award of some sort.
Yeah, we should.
I feel like you should get an award.
we should make Lynn one of the great 8.
I know it's never a dull moment. So there's
Babz,
that.
I know we're taking hiatus this summer. I feel like the Rolling Stones going out on solo projects over the summer. So what are you up to this summer? What are you doing on the air this summer?
My daily show is going to a 2-hour format.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited about that. And I'm working on a film. So working on a film in California. So I'm a producer on a rather big film. And so I'm looking forward to that. So that's my kickoff. That's what I'm going to be doing. I can't talk about the film just yet because we're still negotiating contracts with talent. But pretty good.
Babz, I don't have anything to compare to that. Well, what I'm going to be doing this summer is launching. I have nothing. Hollywood.
No,
you got to be kidding.
You're gonna be launching your podcast.
Yeah, we are. Right there it is, right up in the upper whatever corner there is our new logo, and it's going to be a limited 10-show run while we're on summer hiatus, and it's going to be around the white collar justice community, and people. It's a community that people don't understand because it's not just people who've committed crimes, but it's also their family members who are the first victims, and then victims in general, whether direct or indirect. And we're going to have on prosecutors and defense attorneys, and there's judges and mitigation experts and all kinds of people within the ecosystem of white collar justice. And it's a specialty show. There's no question that it's not for everybody, but it's something I'm interested in. So we'll see how it takes. And
I think it'll be great.
Yeah, we'll be taping them all over the next few weeks, and then we'll release them episodically. So I'm blessed for that. And so it is. Let's see. You want to start saying hi to guests?
Yes. Who's in the room?
All right.
Who's at the party?
In the room where it happened.
Hey, how are you, Corey?
So,
hey,
Mike.
good to see you.
Hey, Corey. It's so good to see you.
I can't wait till y'all go on HBO so Babz to use her real language. I love Babz on Facebook. I said y'all need the HBO show.
That's true. Nobody knows how much we have to hold back this on broadcast.
Oh my God, that is so funny. And it's so funny, Corey, because people who follow me on Facebook, because I'm very selective about who I let follow me, because I know they would feel some kind of way about how I actually talk.
So from my radio interview with you, and then when I started following you on Facebook, I said, "Wow, she's really HBO."
Babz brings it.
Yeah. Yeah, but we need that though. It's truth to power. We need that.
So Corey, how you doing? I read that you just finished your first semester in your social justice LLM program.
So the beauty. So I emailed the dean because I received 2 A's and I got the highest grade in one of my courses, and I told the dean and some of the select staff, I said, remember this when other people who have been formerly incarcerated apply to this law school, that you give them an opportunity and chance. Because if I can come back to school and get 2 A's, look at the potential of those other people and don't judge people by, one mistake. So I sent that around to the law school. Yeah. So I thought it was just a feel-good story, that I was able not only to go back, but then to get the highest grade and get another A in my other course. So it was good feeling.
Hey, Corey, why don't you pitch that paper that you wrote? Because I think that over the next decade or so, partner reform is going to be a huge topic, and I know you're breaking out into the front of that.
Okay, I will.
Mm-hmm. All right. So
I'm so glad you could join us. I'm so glad you could hang out with us.
Yeah, thank you, Corey.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of great guests. I see Sue there. Hi, Sue. I remember talking to you when I came home. Yeah.
So Babz, why don't you call on people? You're the hostess.
I can't see people, so because I'm on my tablet, so I don't have the
all right,
I don't have the grid in front of me, so you have to call out people.
All right, I'll do it. Well, the first one who clicked on today was Mike Lawler. So the famous Mike Lawler.
Going on?
Hey, Mike, how you doing?
Morning, I'm doing great.
Listen, I've been following their pandemic, cocktail parties at their house and all the cooking that goes on.
Online, though, just to be clear, only via Zoom, right?
Online.
Not breaking any rules.
I should just crash that house. Y'all cook some good food over there every day.
Oh, big time. Yeah.
Oh my God, your husband.
I'm just in charge of the cocktails.
You do a good job, but your husband is amazing. I love him.
David is the best.
He is the best. He cooks so beautifully. I was like, man, they eat like kings over there.
Our anniversary is coming up in a couple of days, so I still feel like I won the lottery. Not the regular lottery, like Powerball.
How many years, Mike?
7 years since we got married.
Wow.
Coming up on 9 years since we met, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Really? He's great. If you don't stay married to him, I'll definitely take him off your hands because he is a treasure. Really.
He's a handful,
he's a treasure.
I'm telling you.
Listen, I like a handful. He's a great guy.
So, what's the Mike Lawler update?
Well, over the last few weeks, people who have a lot of experience in and knowledge about the criminal justice system have been in demand, right? Talking to journalists and legislators and others. So it's been pretty busy, but in a good way, though, because I think more than any time I can remember, people are really focused on reimagining, reinventing the entire criminal justice system. And so a lot of people want to do it. They don't have very detailed plans on how to do it. And so I like the opportunity to give my own insights and recommendations. So it's been busy, but in a very good way.
Good.
Yeah, well, you were definitely one of the leaders in criminal justice reform in this state for a long, long time, Mike. So I know everybody looks up to you. So we're really grateful to have you here in the state and still working hard at the front lines.
Thanks.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, these are challenging times, but I will say this, out of all these challenging times, some good stuff is starting to happen in this country. And come November, give us opportunity to really set a different course. And I feel quite optimistic. And happy Juneteenth.
Yeah, Juneteenth, right? Yeah.
Hey, Babz, one thing which I try to stress to people, everyone wants to come into special session and do something like next week, which is fine. But I think the real systemic changes that need to happen are complicated and are going to take some time to figure out. So there are some easy things that can be done quickly. But as you say, come next spring, especially if there's a new administration in Washington, I would expect a lot of money coming through the pipeline to help underwrite these reforms that people are talking about. And hopefully in our state legislature, we'll have the energy and the motivation to really enact this stuff, because these are opportunities that don't come more than once in a generation, if that. And so people need to get ready.
Yeah, and I think people are getting ready.
Yeah. Hey, we have Commissioner Semple on. Hey, Scott, how you doing? You got to unmute yourself.
Jeff, Babz, hello everybody. I see some familiar faces on this this show today, and I'm happy to be with you for now the third time.
Yeah.
Yes. Do you have an announcement for us? Okay, I'm just messing with you.
No, I'm not running for governor.
See, I didn't say it. I just put it out there.
We have our bumper stickers all set to go, Scott.
So the backstory on that was it started with one of Mike's colleagues, and he made up a bumper sticker, "Simple for Governor 2018," and that kind of got around. And then I did my first show with you, and Babz said, "You should run for governor," and I thought that was the funniest thing, right? And it didn't stop for quite a while.
I know people were serious about it, right? People were like, "You know something?" I was like, "No, I know nothing."
Here's the truth: that Scott sent us copies of the Semple for Governor bumper sticker, but he made us promise we would not post them online.
So how you doing? So your Commissioner Cook is leaving.
Yeah.
And I understand why. I had a good conversation with him, but it's a little sad for our state. Any thoughts? Any comments?
Well, I think the agency and the governor's administration should look at it as an opportunity. I was somewhat involved in helping Governor Lamont, along with Mike, in the selection of Commissioner Cook, and I think he was a great selection, and I think Connecticut will miss him. But it also is an opportunity to reevaluate who could step up next and lead the agency, hopefully in the interest of progressive reform, which is kind of like what I like to do, and bring it fast forward with everything, like you said, Babz, that's going on in our country right now. It really should be looked at as an opportunity to influence an agenda that really focuses on helping people move through the back end of the criminal justice system and lead successful lives, and for both the people who have been incarcerated and their families.
Well said.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. Thank you for being such a wonderful guest of ours 3 times now. A month ago with your associates from Vera Institute of Justice. And it's powerful stuff that you're moving the True Unit and the Worth Unit, or at least what you've learned from them, all over the country. So it's great to have Connecticut in the forefront. How's that for a pitch?
Yeah, pretty excited about working with Vera. I do some consulting for other companies as well, and I really like having my life back.
Yeah.
And for the most part, I have control over my professional life now. But sometimes, like today, for instance, I have to get off at 10 o'clock because I have a mandated meeting. But I did like the journey, but I didn't go through what they have gone through this pandemic thing, and I can only imagine the impact that it's had. But I think that they worked really hard to create the best type of environment they could to be responsive to the health needs of the staff and population.
Yes.
Thank you, Scott. Why don't we jump to Louis Reed? Louis is here, the busiest man in criminal justice.
I know he is. Like James Brown.
Hey, Louis, with that big contract that your pal Kim Kardashian West has signed with Spotify, I'm sure you're all over it.
That's what rumor has it. I can neither confirm nor deny. I hear things through TMZ the same way that you guys hear things. So, yeah.
How you doing? It's nice to see you.
It's nice to see you as well. I'm good. If you would have asked me how I was doing the week before last, I would have said I was infuriated. Last week I was depressed, but this week I'm hopeful. Mm-hmm. I was just telling someone the other day, I was doing an interview, and interestingly enough, I found inspiration through Bruce Lee. I watched the ESPN 30 special, and on there he said, "Be water, my friend." And I was just thinking about how there's this tidal wave that is literally bathing this country from racism, from mass incarceration, from disproportionate sentencing, et cetera. And, America for a long time has refused to bathe herself from the filthiness of all of the above mentioned. So I'm hopeful, man. We got some whole bunch of brands in the fire at Cut 50 and over at the Reform Alliance, and the next 6 weeks or so for us is going to be super dope.
I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah. So Louis, give us an insider secret or two. Give us something, man. Yeah, you're on the inside of all this stuff, so I want you to break it here.
Yeah, well, I'll just say this: Van Jones doesn't like to party. That's the extent of what I can say. And Kim Kardashian has a great house. That's the extent of what I can say here.
Oh, better than ours.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, Jeff. You and Lynn, you guys are kind of like guys should be in Home and Garden magazine. But I will say this. I think that most likely, if not today, probably early next week, there are one or two things that's going to be happening just between us girls in the room. We're going to get some unfortunate news about the Breonna Taylor situation. It's probably going to break either today or Friday. And, we're trying to prepare for that. And the other piece of news, I think that on a more buoyant note is there's probably a generational disconnect here with the name that I'm going to say. The only person who's probably going to be able to get this is Brent Peterking and maybe Danielle. So the rest of you guys who are not hip hop enthusiasts, just leave it alone. But there's a rapper. His name is Tory Lanez, and we touched base with him just the other day, and he asked us to identify 100 Black fathers who are celebrating their first Father's Day. And what he's going to do is he's creating a Father's Day experience for them, and he's going to be giving gift cards worth $500.
Wow.
For a meal and Amazon to 100 fathers across the nation who are experiencing their first Father's Day. So that's going to be announced. It's in embargo. But it'll be announced on Monday.
Well,
Okay.
Louis, you only live 3 miles away from me. You can bring one of those gift cards over here if you want.
Yeah, but you're not celebrating your first Father's Day home, so I can't. Hey, and I know you soul brother number one, right? But the criteria is that you had to be a Black father. So you're an honorary brother, but you got to be born like Black.
Well, and speaking of Father's Day, happy Father's Day to you.
Thank you.
Everybody, yeah. Well, you can come over for a barbecue anyway, Louis. How about that?
I appreciate that.
Beth Hines from Community Partners in Action.
Good morning.
How you doing?
I'm well. How are you? Hi.
It's so good
Nice
to see you, Beth.
Again.
Thank you.
Catch us up. Tell us what's going on.
Let's see. Within CPA?
Yeah, or you, or whatever. You and Mike, whatever.
Oh, yeah, me and Mike. Well, I want to say hi to everybody. It's so nice to see everybody. Scott, we miss you a lot. Well, Mike is good. He's working hard too. CPA remains operational during these challenging times. We have our Hartford Reentry Welcome Center on the front lines, meeting people on their day of release, making sure that they have all their needs met, including shelter. Many of the people that we had originally housed in hotels at the start of the pandemic, we've been able to successfully place them into more permanent permanent housing solutions. So that's been great. I see Fernando working closely with Sherry Albert and Community Solutions and to advocate with the department regarding admissions. And during this pandemic, there's been lots of challenges to navigate. We are hoping next week to be able to have our residents start searching for work because we know that the collateral consequences of COVID on our population are going to be significant. They're going to be competing with people that don't have records for very scarce jobs. So we want to get our clients out there as soon as possible, and hopefully they can secure employment within the next couple weeks. We did open a new juvenile residential treatment program during COVID. And so that's really exciting. That's a program in Hartford. And we have significant construction underway for a site-secured juvenile residential program in Hamden. So these will be for the youth who are in the detention centers that are at the highest risk. And hopefully we can put an end to our children being locked up in detention and get them into the community so that they can get the services that they need. So lots of stuff going on at CPA. Really grateful to see everybody today. Just challenges.
And you had a graduation in the family recently, right?
Well, I had two seniors. So my oldest son graduated from Suffolk University, and my youngest one graduated from high school. Yeah, and it's tough to have two seniors, So Luke will go to Boston, hopefully in the fall or even earlier. He's supposed to play soccer for Emmanuel College. And my son Jackson, who graduated, is going to study for his LSATs and hopefully start law school next September. So
wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's a lot of good news.
Yeah.
Since you mentioned the reentry center, we should probably jump to Sue.
There you go.
And she can give us the 411 on the reentry center. How you doing, Sue?
Hey, good
Thanks,
morning.
everybody.
Good morning, everybody.
Hi, nice to see you.
For having me. Jeff and Babz, thank you for all that you do. Thank you for pulling this great group of folks together. So it's hard to believe. I look back as to when Beth and I were on the show with, actually it was an all ladies event. It was us and Babz. So, we took over the airwaves that day. So it was a good time.
That's right. We need to do that again and often.
That was good. Beth's laughing. We had a great time, and I just thank you so much for keeping these conversations going. They're so critical to making change and bringing us all together. So thank you for doing that. The Hartford Reentry Center. So the city of Hartford, people are still coming home from incarceration. As the start of this pandemic happened, we work closely with DOC. We're on the phone with DOC every single week, working closely with the reentry staff and trying to make sure that there's those warm handoffs from the department, people being transported directly to us, even during the middle of this pandemic when things all shut down. The center, we received folks identified as homeless end of sentence. So those most in need without services or supports came home to the Reentry Welcome Center. CPA is an amazing partner. We're so blessed to have them as our lead nonprofit. And they provided charged cell phones for individuals. So as we all have gone virtual, as you can see, we're all, socially distant from our homes and workplaces. Folks coming out of incarceration didn't have charged cell phones to connect to services. And so we made sure, and CPA made sure that they had food, clothing. We identified folks, making sure that if they needed housing, got them into a shelter if they needed a shelter. We didn't want anybody to end up under the bridges. So it's been challenging, but there are silver linings. We have some folks that have come out of the shelter and have their own apartment, have a job. And so there are so many silver linings when we step back and take a look at everything. There are many silver linings that have come out of this. And so we're excited to keep that going, but working hard. Talking to folks, I remember Commissioner Semple saying that there's an aging population coming out of DOC, and I did listen to you, sir. And so I've been starting to have conversations with folks identifying that older age group to see how we could bring them home and welcome that age group home. And doing a virtual, we were supposed to do number 7, a job fair in Hartford, and that's going virtual at some point. Just trying to see everything that we were going to do it virtually. Holding part of the other hat that I wear is the Greater Hartford. I'm one of the leaders of the Greater Hartford Reentry Council. And so we are still hosting meetings all 10. Andrew's on, I'm sure he'll talk about the collaborative. But we're hosting every single month, doing meetings. So just trying to keep people connected. But like Louis said, Louis, we've got a lot of work to do. We've got to do it together. And I look forward to fighting this fight. And as Mike said, we'll be ready for the spring. We'll be ready. So thank you.
Thank you for all the work that you've done and continue to do. Jeff and I do feel that it's important that people know, that there are so many layers to this criminal justice system, that it's just not people coming in and out of prison, that it is a universe of folks doing all kinds of things for all different kinds of reasons to help people and always to people's success. So, I want people to know that, that there are people on the ground with boots on the ground who are committed to ensuring that humanity prevails, across this incarceration horizon, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you, Sue. Why don't we jump to Andrew Clark? I'm trying to be organic here, like things that kind of roll one into another. So while we're promoting this show, I was getting a lot of emails and a lot of tweets and all from people out there who know all of you people, but they didn't necessarily know how everybody's connected. And so one of the things that happened is I heard from an old fraternity brother of Andrew Clark's who reached out.
It's funny. Andrew Clark is he's like Kevin Bacon, right? Like this degrees of separation. I run into people and I'll start talking to them about all of this stuff. And then I'll go, do you know Andrew Clark? I've not run into Andrew Clark in quite some time.
Maybe it should be Andrew. Maybe it should be Andrew Clark for lieutenant governor.
Yes, I've not seen him, but his name just floats into spaces, and I'm like, man, I need to run into him. So, hi, Andrew Clark. How are you?
Hey, how are you? Good to see you.
Nice to see you.
The funny thing about that is I'm actually pretty much an introvert, but I really do like people, so it's a tough thing to navigate. It has been too long, Babz, since we've been together. So
I know. I feel like we were hanging pretty tight, and then I don't know. We just, I mean, because you live so far away. So if you lived closer, how are the kids?
Make it happen. New Haven's kind of my second home, so.
I know so many people who know you. I'm telling you, time I go somewhere and I'm talking about this work, somebody will mention you. And I was like, yes, I know Andrew Clark.
Like you said, there's a lot of passionate people on the ground doing the work. So you just got to put yourself out there that you're passionate about it as well, and you make connections. So, and it's all about how do you make those connections come together for measurable change for people.
So Andrew, how are you doing with IMRP at during COVID and during social distancing and all? Are you able to run efficiently, and what's going on?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, like everybody else, aside from essential workers, we were sent home the second weekend. So navigating that has been challenging, but you know what? It's really fascinating because we jumped right into it, and this virtual world, as much as it has been challenging, actually provided tremendous opportunity to reach out in ways that we hadn't before. Like, for instance, the Reentry Collaborative, because we were so traditionally used to meeting in person, we did it fairly infrequently, but we started doing 2 times a week meetings and catching up, and then started doing these weekly, because we had planned on Reentry Reform Day at the Capitol on one day, and it took all this energy and effort to put that together. And here we could put together virtual conversations with a lot less effort that actually probably reached more people. And so it has provided a tremendous opportunity to get people together and discussing things and figuring out how we can move forward and bringing things to light that sometimes, as you all, everybody on this call are well aware, many people in our state aren't well aware of. So, so it's been busy, it's been challenging. And then, other things have been happening, like recently, we've been working with, Daryl McGraw's been working with us, and he's been chairing the Police Transparency and Accountability Task Force. And like a lot of things that happen, in the legislature, these things get passed, and the implementation side of it hasn't really been thought out. And so there weren't really any resources for it. And so we kind of stepped in like we do on occasion, and are providing some staff support for Daryl and the task force. And I think there's some and with folks at 21 CP Solutions, a lot of the people that were on or affiliated with President Obama's 21st Task Force on policing, and starting to see how we can create some of those best practices even more into what we're doing in Connecticut, but also move the needle forward. I think, we were talking to them just yesterday that, what Obama was able to do back in 2015, it was very forward thinking, and integrated a lot of progressive thinking. But today, as many people have said already, it's a new day, and the possibilities are really once in a generation at best. And so thinking about what that means, and moving a state like Connecticut even further along. And I agree with Mike when he was talking about it's going to take some real doing, but I also think that we have all of those elements in place, and really it just is going to take people coming together in the political world to do it. And I've always been a huge proponent of the concept of justice reinvestment, and I see this kind of discussion about policing and what do we do with that. And just like in corrections in Connecticut and nationwide, we hadn't looked at the fiscal side of it until the early part of 2000s. I really think with policing, we haven't really looked at the fiscal side of it, and what's cost beneficial. And I think there's a tremendous opportunity to bring policing, but the rest of the justice system into the equation of how do we shrink the exorbitant amount of resources we've been placing in these systems for the better of 30 to 40 years, and reinvest them into the very places that are being most impacted by them. And I think there's a way that we can do that, and show people that it can be done not only safely, but for the best of everyone. So,
yeah. Well, thank you, Andrew. So organically jumping from you, we have Aileen here because she works with you every day. So Aileen, how you doing? Why don't you catch us up?
Hi, I'm doing very well, thank you. Here with my coworker.
Oh, you're working her hard. You're working her hard.
I know. She was like, "Go to work with mommy. Go to work with mommy." Yeah. But she replaced Andrew, so she looks better in a dress. I'm just gonna say. But anyway, we're doing really well. Yeah, as Andrew was saying, it's been certainly a transition to work from home, and to carry our Children with Incarcerated Parents initiative into the virtual world. But I think we're doing a good job. One of our funded programs has had a major adjustment. We fund the CLICK program, Connecting Through Literacy Incarcerated Parents, Their Children, and Caregivers, which is a mentoring program, which of course is in person. And then they mentor the children in the community, but also the parents in the prisons. And of course, visits and services like that in the facilities are halted for now to keep everybody as healthy as possible. But they're transitioning to virtual mentoring. And so that's certainly an adjustment that they're working on. And everyone's adjusting, but we're doing it. And hopefully it opens up some opportunities to broaden all of our work, and, to realize the possibility of things that we can do using advanced technology and everything. And of course, our values are being looked at as well, which is wonderful.
well, we just caught up with you recently because you've been on a very recent show.
Yep. I think last week.
Yeah, I think it was last week, maybe. Right. So it's great. It's great to see you. We're going to kind of first of all, if anybody on the call has to log off quickly, either raise your hand or put it in the chat box, and I'll make sure to get you right away. Jeffrey Deskovic has put his name in the chat box. Jeffrey, where are you? Why don't you come say hello?
Hi, Jeff.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. I see a lot of familiar faces. So, very busy time for me. Very exciting time. Just involved in a number political races. I think that, who's in position makes a tremendous difference. So, from backing Melissa Mark Vivierno for Congress to Mimi Roca for Westchester DA, Matt Toporowski for Albany DA, Yvonne Rosales running for District Attorney in El Paso. The short documentary about me called Conviction was just accepted into its 6th film festival, New York Liftoff Film Festival. Excited about that. Coalition group I'm part of, It Can Happen to You. We're really close to passing a bill in Pennsylvania, which would provide automatic expungement for exonerees there. Of course, the New York chapter of the coalition, we're trying to repass the Commission on Prosecutor Conduct. So it's an independent oversight board that would provide review for prosecutors. I've been involved with the National Justice Impact of Bar Association, which is going to launch soon. Dieter will speak about that later, but I'm excited to be involved and consult and help there. Trying to just get my law license finally. I got all the paperwork together and do this interview. My nonprofit, the Jeffrey Deskovic Foundation for Justice, we have 11 active cases. We're cautiously optimistic that we'll be freeing 2 to 6 people within the next year. And I really would like to be co-counsel on, the bulk of those cases rather than, again, relegated to the front row of the courtroom, hence my urgency in getting the license. And, tried like every nonprofit, we're trying to get some funding in the door, trying to snag a celebrity or two. All the while, just while there's this wave of criminal justice reform, trying to make sure that wrongful conviction and prosecutorial misconduct don't get left behind, amidst all the correct fervor as to the police. But, we have to remember that prosecutors often work in tandem with them, and they back the police up when the police do things that are not, that are not right, from not prosecuting officers who engage in unjustifiable deadly police force or brutality, or even using evidence that they know the police have obtained illegally and allowing them to get away with testifying in court. So just trying to keep those issues in focus. Other than that, I'm not busy, Jeff.
well,
you really should do more.
You see, you're one of the few people I know, Jeffrey, that actually sat through a law school class, but the professors had you come up to the front and teach the class.
Right. It's true. That was a unique experience. But look, hats off to them that they were secure enough to, allow me to do that. They weren't threatened by me, and they had no idea what I was going to say when I got up there. So I had a blast with it. I liked it, and I really feel like supplementing my informal learning along with my personal experience with the formal education, getting the extra credential, I feel like that really would help my further advocacy initiatives. So I had a blast doing it. It was hard as heck, but I'm glad it's over with. I'm glad it's done, and it's already opened up some doors, and I'm kind of excited to see what the future may hold.
Well, we're really proud of you, Jeffrey. I mean, serving the kind of time you served for a wrongful conviction is just a terrible, terrible thing. And if there's anybody here who we should be having empathy and celebrate, it should be you. So thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Thank you. In the chat, Amy, you have to get off. Amy, you were one of our first guests. Way back when. It's so good to see you.
Yep. Yeah, certainly a lot has changed since then. So thank you for inviting me here today, and happy Juneteenth to everybody. I'm glad to be here on this day to celebrate liberation and freedom and what that's going to look like in 2020. So thinking back to 2017, I mean, one thing, I come on with Jackie Lucibella to talk about women who are incarcerated at York. And one thing I just want to give a shout out to is today or this month, there's 635 women incarcerated at York. And that is a tremendous decrease than, what we've seen. And I think when we talk about defunding the police, this is what this looks like, and hearing from our reentry partners about how we can move men and women out of prison. They can live in our community. And I hope that we'll continue to see that number drop and be in a place where we can also defund the prisons in our state and redirects a lot of those resources to CPA and other community partners who are doing wonderful work and dignity. So Babz and Jeff, I mean, just two things I wanted to add. I mean, one thing is building on what Jeff was saying about the wrongful conviction, issue. I want to recognize that and also center those who are guilty of their crimes, right? So I think what we've seen out of a lot of this police brutality discussion that I'm hopeful about is a move towards the idea of human rights and the fact that if you are resisting arrest from a police officer, that does not mean that they can kill you. Right? So making this divide between, because I think for too long it's like,
good to
well,
me.
that guy was shot, but he was a bad person, or and you can see that when they started to do that with George Floyd, there was a pushback, and it was like, we're not interested in what his criminal justice history is. We're interested in the fact that he is a human being and he was murdered, right? So I think just also thinking about how we sometimes rationalize inhumane treatment based on other people's, and two wrongs don't make a right. So I don't know, I'm encouraged by that discussion, and I hope that we're going to, continue to talk about that. Criminal justice systems do not work for people who've been wrongfully convicted, and they also don't work for people who were involved in illegal activity for whatever reason. So last thing I want to say, just as a professor at Southern Connecticut State University, which is your state partner here in the Elm City, we had a wonderful discussion on Facebook Live this week with a lot of our faculty and alumni and students talking about white supremacy and anti-racism work in New Haven. And if you haven't watched that already, I would encourage you to go to our Facebook page and watch that discussion, because I think it was really informative, and there were a lot of great voices and ideas that surfaced there. So thanks a lot. Nice to see everyone.
Thank you, Amy. I'm following in the chat box now. So we're going to go to Glenn, then Brent, then Serena.
And let me just say to Amy, thank you for lifting up this conversation around anti-racism work and white supremacy.
Yeah.
Because really, if you cannot talk about anti-racism and this work in relation to criminal justice, then you are not talking about criminal justice. You're talking about something else. So if you're not committed to anti-racism work, then I don't know what you're doing, because this is tantamount to of moving us all forward to liberation. So thank you for that.
No, definitely, and articulating that. I think the language that we use is really important, and that came up in the Facebook Live session, just thinking about sometimes we have like an Office of Diversity or Equity or something, and we need to move from those sort of softball terms and name exactly what we're trying to do, which is, deconstruct white supremacy ideology in our society and build anti-racism tools that actively dismantle these systems.
Yes, Amy, I love you.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Amy. Hey, great plug for Southern, great plug for Women's Resettlement Center. We got to jump
to all the women in New York today.
And all, amen. We got to jump Glenn, Brent, and Serena, because everyone's got to log off soon. Glenn, you out there?
I'm here. Thanks for giving me a couple.
Glenn. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you? Thanks for the invitation back. More importantly, thanks for having me on the show. I think about a year ago, maybe a little over a year ago at this point. It was an important moment in my life and my journey, and you guys had me on at a time when I really needed people to stand with me and support me. And so I just wanted to say thank you for that. I see a lot of familiar faces. I've seen people. I came on and Andrew was talking, and Andrew and I go way back when I had no clue what the hell I was doing in this work, but he and I were able to change laws in Connecticut at the time, and it just really brings me back. So it's good to see familiar faces. What do I add to this conversation now? I mean, a little update on sort of where I am.
Yeah.
I'm running a consulting business that works with nonprofits from across the country that are doing criminal justice reform, mostly on the fundraising side, but also around organizational development and individualized coaching with executive directors and so on. So it gives me a view of the field that I've never had before, interesting vantage point. And I guess on today, Juneteenth, the one thing I pick out of that, there's many things I could talk about, but the one thing I pick out is I actually believe that if we are moving towards an anti-racist society, even the criminal justice reform space needs to be critical of itself and how that plays out. You know, I think of my trajectory from prison to Legal Action Center to Fortune to Just Leadership. And, you know, from far away, people can have their opinions and make up their narratives about what that looks like. But I know what it looked like up close, and I know what it meant to be a Black man trying to play the role of poster child so that I could get the funding I needed to do things like close down Rikers. And so I hope that that conversation continues to bubble up within not just criminal justice reform, but also philanthropy. Because I think philanthropy drives a lot of the decision making that's happening. And now that there's hundreds of millions of more dollars coming into this space, I do worry that things may get even more toxic than they have been. I wanted to add that to the conversation. And the other thing I'm doing, people might find strange, but everything I do has a strategy to it. So just bear with me. I have a real estate company. I started a real estate company 2 years ago. I have about.
Are you trying to buy back the block?
He's going to buy Rikers.
I do believe that people of color need to have income that is not tied to philanthropy. I learned a lot of lessons about the role philanthropy plays in deciding who is the leader of the day and then who is not. And I just never want to find myself in that predicament again. So yeah, I decided that creating wealth for myself and hopefully for my children and grandchildren was also something I wanted to do. So it's good to see everyone. I apologize that I have to get off early as a consultant. Every minute matters. I'm going to stay on until the end. But thanks for the opportunity.
Hi, Glenn.
Well, it's nice to see you.
Thank you, Glenn. And Glenn, it wasn't lost on us when you came on our show at the time. I think we were the first people you spoke to after you went through your stuff. And the fact that you trusted us to be compassionate and empathetic and non-judgmental was a beautiful thing. So thank you for that. And
well, I appreciate that he let me go hard and he didn't punch me.
No, I actually appreciated that you went hard. I mean, I am always a person that's open for having conversations about human beings in all of everything we bring to the table, good, bad, everything in between. And you guys created a space for that. And Jeff, I am going to reveal that I called you a couple of days ago because I got SBA loan and really scared to take it and thought you were the person who could tell me what I needed to avoid so I don't end up starting this whole cycle over again.
Oh yeah. And I've gone from being the prison guy to the chaplain guy, now to the SBA loan guy. I don't know how that happened.
Hi, this is Babz Rawls-Ivy from New Haven, Connecticut, and you're listening to WNHHLP 103.5 FM, streaming live at newhavenindependent.org.
Wow, how about that? A little PSA.
Well, you got to let people know what station you're on.
That's great. All right, Serena, I know you have to leave. You're up next. Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Jeff and Babz. I have to say, I think the most fun I've had all year was coming to Connecticut and being on your radio program.
Girl, you got to get out more. But thank you for saying that, because we do want to have a good time. I mean, we know the work is serious. We know the topics are serious. But at the same time, there is opportunity to sort of, have a little frivolity and to make people feel like this is not a highly charged space where you have to show up on guard, that you can show up and be relaxed. Like, I think Jeff and I, we want people to feel like they are stepping into our living room and maybe having a cocktail or a cup of coffee and having good conversation, rather than just like put the lights on you and the mic in front of you and, drag you. That's not what we're about.
Yeah.
So thank you.
I enjoy my time. And I think it's so important for the general community to know that those of us who have been behind bars are just like everybody else. And we have the same issues and concerns that the whole community has. Yesterday we hosted a press conference in front of State Senator Kaminsky's office. And everybody's going, oh, you shouldn't defund the police. Well, what we're talking about is divesting into our communities. And on Juneteenth, what better way to celebrate and think about the fact that mass incarceration is absolutely a pipeline of new slavery. I mean, this is what we know about prisons. Myself as a Latina, many of the women I was incarcerated with, I was in the car yesterday with a woman who spent 17 years in prison, the same prison I was in, and it just shouldn't have happened. And I think one of the things that I think about, you know, we are at New Hour, we're getting ready to begin this venture for a house for women on Long Island. There's really no safe housing here. Yes, we're very excited, but we got a lot of fundraising to do. And I think the other piece is, you know, still shifting how people see those of us who come home. You know, there is still so much stigma and bias in the community. And I think that right now is such a critical moment to connect the issues of keeping, you know, older people behind bars when they can go home and they're safe to do so. One of the things we worked on, we advocated with Governor Cuomo to say, you need to release pregnant women if they're at risk of contracting COVID, and all pregnant women. Why are we incarcerating pregnant women? And so he released a couple of women, but it's really not far enough. And I think this is where, in this time, you know, I call it, you know, post George Floyd, what are we going to do different about our criminal justice system to really help people understand exactly why our criminal justice system is so overrun with brutality? You know, where are the body cams for all the correctional officers? You know, everybody knows that black box, that gray box, that gray room, that elevator, where you know what was going to happen there. So let's keep it real. We know what happens behind those walls, and all the administration in the world talks about how they're doing great things, and maybe they are, but the truth is it comes down to that CO who doesn't like you or doesn't like your crime, and you have maybe your life to pay with. You know, in the case of Layleen Polanco, we've seen this. You know, trans people are dying behind bars, older people are dying behind bars, and you know, I don't want to be a wet blanket, but I do feel like there's a sense of urgency now more than ever to really reform the system. You know, Glenn and I started this work many years ago in the same rooms. You know, Lou's been doing this countrywide, and you know, Jeff came back to Long Island where I am. And so I think that there is just such a space for us to really take ownership and move into electing officials and lawmakers, maybe lawmakers who have been incarcerated. Why can't we have lawmakers representing us, right? They need to have the history that we have to represent us. I think that we're in that moment.
I think you're right.
Thank you, Serena. And you have the distinction of being the only guest we've ever had who's got to our show by ferry. So I don't know what that means, but all right. So I'm reading in the chat. So to make sure we hit everybody, let's do Jackie, I'm going to jump over you for a second because we've got a couple of people who have to get off. So let's go to Fernando and then Jeffrey Bromwitz.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Jeff, Babz. Nice to see you.
How are you?
I'm doing well. Nice to see you all. Nice to see so many familiar faces. I'm Fernando Munoz from Community Solutions, and really want to piggyback off what Serena was talking about in terms of the need for criminal justice reform and the moment that we're in right now. I'm just reflecting on the fact that we had an agency-wide video town hall meeting for all of our staff that are working remotely. And one of the things that we shared was testimony that our founding executive director gave to Congress in 1968 about the need for criminal justice reform that is still not fully realized. And so I think in these kinds of moments, we really have to push as a community, as agencies, as advocates, to really get the kinds of reforms that are needed so that we're not just tinkering around the edges of this system, but really making meaningful reform for the folks that we're serving. And I'm, like many of you, we've been dealing with COVID-19 now for over 90 days. And like our colleagues at CPA, we operate a lot of residentials. So we've learned an awful lot about what it takes to operate a residential 24-hour program under these kind of conditions. Luckily, this didn't happen to us in Connecticut, but our Delaware residential program actually got quarantined for 14 days with no staff or clients in or out. And so, the challenges around working in this environment are real. And to add to that, the murder of George Floyd and subsequent protests, our staff are just reporting just being exhausted. And not just physically exhausted, but emotionally exhausted by everything that's going on in the country right now. And we're really trying to provide spaces for them to talk about that and provide them with as much support as we can. Just knowing that not only are the people that we serve disproportionately people of color, but so are our staff. And so people are really bringing, a lot of the emotional kind of trauma that they're dealing with to work with them every day. And that's just something that I think we have to remember as a community, is that we've got to support and uplift our colleagues because it's just a really, really heavy time. So I just want to thank you guys for the opportunity. Nice to see so many familiar faces. And I hope to see everyone in person soon.
Thank you, Fernando. It was wonderful
Thank
having
you.
you on.
Very nice to see you.
All right, so we have a lot of people who got to jump off fast. So we're next in the list is Jeffrey, Tahiba, then Venice, then Catherine. We're all good with that? All right, good. All right, Jeffrey.
So hi, Jeff. How you doing? I'm
good.
I'm really humbled to be here. I finally got a payback from you because I had you on my radio show. We taped last week. It'll be airing this Wednesday. So thank you for that. I am so glad to see so many faces. I got to give a shout out to Lou. So many of my mentors that I look up to, including Glenn, who was just on. I was a Just Leader Fellow with Glenn. And it's just been a remarkable journey since I've been home. But I kind of found myself in the middle of education, workforce development, and reentry across the country. And I think we're right now in a spot where everyone on this call today has an opportunity, because we are going to be faced with a different world. We have men and women coming home from prison that are going to be looking for opportunities, and they're going to be competing with men and women that are that maybe don't have a criminal background. We've come so far over the last years, engaging SHRM and other major organizations to really try to level the playing field when it comes to employment opportunities. And we have to continue that charge going forward. We have to be able to let people know that they need to be transparent. They need to tell their stories. And we have to get employers to open that door and open it really wide so that there are career opportunities for men and women coming home. So I'm really excited about it. I'm glad so much going on. One of the big things today is I'm going to be testifying this afternoon in Washington by virtual through the internet, but with the GOA regarding prison staffing and issues regarding educational support in the prisons across our country, in particular in the federal system. And we're also going to be having some discussions coming up and trying to push forward that Pell Grant relief, because I think it's going to make a big impact. I believe reentry starts the day you go into prison, and that we have to do more inside of our walls, educating the men and women that have an opportunity, giving them skill development, so when they come out, they're prepared to rock it. And we need to do that. So I'm really humbled to be here. Jeff and Babz, thanks for so much for having me on. Jeff's been a great friend. I know Jackie's on, and I know so many of you that are on the call today. Just everyone, continue the great work that you're doing. It really is making an impact for the people in the streets and people coming home. And I'm really just privileged to be part of this group. So thank you.
Thank you. And
thank you.
And folks, if I'm pushing you back, it's because people are coming on the chat that they have to get off. And Jeffrey, completely self-serving, why don't you give the pitch on how people can tune into our radio show on Wednesday?
Yeah, sure. So we're on Philly Cam Radio, and that's podcasted across the country. But if you go on to phillycam.org, it'll pick it up, and it's 106.5 FM, and it runs through Philadelphia, New York, and New Jersey.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Tahiba, are you on?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, good.
Hey,
Hi, Babz. How are you guys?
Nice to see you, girl.
I'm hanging in there. I can't complain. Life is a little topsy-turvy right now. I just want to say hello to everyone. You guys all look so beautiful. I'm just so happy to be a part of this. I know quite a few people on this panel discussion, and it's on this discussion because it's not a panel, but it's great to see you. Glenn, I don't know if you're still there, but I miss you so much. Like you're one of my first mentors, and I wish you, I just love you. Louis, everybody, I say hello. Sue, Eileen, Andrew, I can't name you all. Andrew Kaplan, Andrew Clark, you guys. Dieter for sure. Yeah, I at the beginning of this pandemic, the Lord touched my heart and asked me to write an open letter to the governor, the Department of Corrections, and the Board of Pardon and Paroles, asking for in absentia for people that's been in prison for a long extended amount of time, that have compromised immune systems. And I had several people, I had like over 100 people sign on to the letter. I didn't get a great response from it, but then the ACLU put out that lawsuit, which was great. I loved it. And, I just, kind of like took a back seat and just watched everything and cried for the most part. My heart was so overwhelmed. I didn't know what to do. I started looking at my community, and I realized, like, we're falling apart, and we need some type of glue, because we didn't know what was going on. The first ever this true pandemic that actually hit hard, and it wasn't a blood type of disease. It became airborne, which then became everyone's virus, right? So it was a little scary. So what we did at Women Against Mass Incarceration, we handed out, there was no hand sanitizer. Like, we couldn't find hand sanitizer to save our lives if we needed to. So I found somebody online that was selling hand sanitizer, and I bought like 2-3 big buckets of hand sanitizer, and I made little small jars, and I handed them out to the community as much as I could. And then they ran out. I couldn't order anymore. And then I was able to get a hold of some masks, and I gave out some masks in my little small section of life, and some gloves. This one place that was a secret. Finally, I was driving past, and I saw all these. Everything else was like sold out, but this one little spot, it was an auto paint store. They had like 3 people standing in front. So me, I'm nosy a little bit. I wanted to know what was going on. So I got out my car, and I said, "Hey, what's going on over here?" And the guy came to the door. He was like, "Well, you have to make an appointment." I said, "For what? What are you selling?" And he said, "Oh, well, what do you need?" I said, "Well, I need gloves. Do you have gloves?" And he was like, "Yeah." I said, "I need 3 boxes." And he gave me 3 boxes of gloves. And I was like, "Oh, great." So I bought them, of course, and I started handing them out, right? So I was like, "Oh, this is good." And in the process, I'm still praying and asking God to show me what to do. And he said, "You just be still," because that was my order from the Lord, to be still. And I was like, okay. But in me being still, meaning like I don't need to be out there protesting. I can join what I need to join, but I need to be careful for myself as well. So I just was listening to him and handing out my PPEs. PPE. So I think that was my contribution for that. When George Floyd got murdered by the police, and I'm not going to say his death, he was murdered. Let's say what it was. It is what it is. He was murdered. And all of the uprising came about. I got numb. I became numb because I started seeing the rallies and everything from the past come to life again. And it just was so scary. And again, he said, "Be still." And maybe I wanted to do something, but I can't go against what my commission is. Yeah. And so when being still, I see his work in all this, because I'm a reverend, I'm a chaplain. And that's me, who I am. And the rest comes after that, but that's who I am. And I had to get back to that. So that's why I think he's bringing me back into that. And I just been praying and keeping everyone covered. So everybody know that I'm praying for all of you across the board. I don't have to know names.
I feel it.
Being prayed for.
Amen, sister.
Amen, right? And
I feel your prayers.
Yeah. God be glory.
I know you praying for me. I know.
Tahiba, thank you so much. You're this is the third time you're on, so thank you so much.
Yeah, but wait,
Oh.
also what we did do was bail out some women. We started bailing out women. We got a little Women Against Mass Incarceration did acquire a little bit of funding, and we went to York the other day to bail out 5 women. We were only able to bail out 1, but we're going back again next week to bail out some more, because that's what we're doing, and that's where we need to be, and that's where God put me. He said people need to come home, so the money that you were gifted with, go and use it as a blessing, not just for what you need at the office, but also with the people at York. And so I need to just put out there for an ask and my call of action. Any and everyone, please contact me, because if you know someone in there that needs to be bailed out under $20,000, I'm not bailing out men. Women Against Mass, I'm bailing out women, and it's not against the Connecticut Bail Fund, because I'm partnering with them. And as much help as I can give them to bring out people coming home, then that's what I'm doing.
Thank you, Tahiba.
Amen.
Brent,
Nice
are you
to
still
see
on?
you.
Did we lose Brent? Well, if we did, I apologize. Brent Peterkin, great friend. We'll have you on again in the fall, Brent. Venice, I apologize. I know you got to go get Bowie, so.
Totally fine. It's fine. Thank you for having me.
Hey, girl, how are you?
How are you, Babz?
I'm all right, sister.
I'll be brief. It's the other day I decided to go back and message students from previous semesters just to say, I told you so, because semester I teach about abolition and they all think I'm crazy. I send them to Mariam Kaba and I send them to Dean Spade and they're all just like, no way, I'm not going to talk about this. But I just say, you know what, let's just play with it. Let's just sit in this mud for a while and get dirty for a while and see how it feels and see if it makes you mad and see if it makes you feel a little like strange and maybe you like some of it and maybe you don't. And I've had a couple of them email me back and say that, hey, wait a second, who knew that this was going to come up again? So, it's been exciting to see how so many people are finally sort of looking at these concepts of defunding and abolition and how we might be able to imagine a new world that focuses on justice and compassion and communicative justice, restorative justice, all these different ideas that so many of you have been working on for so long. And just making sure that we don't get hijacked and sort of watered down, if you will, by people who are less comfortable with it and want to pull us back towards reforms that haven't worked. And I also wanted to say, like Tahiba, like Serena, my focus really is on moms and on sort of how do we particularly focus on mothers and Black mothers in particular as sort of our nexus of where we have to focus our attention. So kudos, and Aileen as well, obviously. So kudos in particular to those people here who are focusing on the moms who've been inside, who are coming out of inside and may go back in again. So awesome and great to see everybody. Thank you, Jeff, and thank you, Babz.
Thank you.
Nice
Venice.
to see you. Thank you so much.
Venice, people don't know that you were my first criminal justice contact, my first meeting when I was first trying to figure out what I was going to do.
Central Station.
You were there. You were there. Kathy,
yeah. Lucky me. I was real lucky.
Lucky me. Yeah, Kathy, I know you got to jump off.
Yes.
Welcome. We're so happy to have you here.
Hi guys, how are you? Hi Babz.
Nice to see you.
I'm still looking for pygmy goats for us to run off with. So yeah, it's I think it was funny. I actually just got an email from one of my alums now who is a police officer down in Washington, D.C. And he had actually come with me on a service learning trip to Baltimore several years ago, in which we worked with prison reentry gang members, victims of human trafficking, and survivors of domestic violence. And he said that he really feels like now everything that he learned can now be really put in the forefront and to see real change. And that he was really grateful for all the little experiences he had, with my little trips to Rikers where I try to terrify them and I try to explain to them how, working on the front lines in this field is not necessarily what we see in the news, and that there are so many good people working at all aspects of in the field. So it's been definitely very challenging for my students, who are now still in their going to third and fourth year, deciphering, is this a field they want to go into, and me trying to rally the passion for them that this is probably one of the most challenging but exciting times where they'll really be able to see some change. And I know for some of us who started many years ago that, we were hoping in the late 90s and then in the 2000s, and everything kind of got stunted and pulled back. But I really think this push forward can be really, really good. So I'm very excited.
Thank you, Kathy. And
well, thank you.
And we're excited to have Iona reopen, right? And
oh my God, I'm excited. I miss my students. I mean, I have to be honest. Like, I'm really hating Zoom. I'm really trying to be on the Zoom bandwagon, but especially I don't know for those who are in academia. The faculty meetings. I think they've all caught on to me when I turn the video off and I mute myself. They're like, she's probably doing laundry or something, because it's a lot right now.
No,
but we got some exciting stuff coming up. So my one of my partners and we've been going back to the rehabilitative modalities and evaluating some of the new programs in the jails facilities using animal assisted therapy, and we're also going to be parlaying it into law enforcement and looking at how animal assisted therapy can help with the transition, because I know there's going to be a lot of pressure on policing as they move forward. And it's one thing we know, that the dogs have been a really great source of therapy for people. And so I think it's going to be really exciting, and I'm excited to go back and see my kids and mask or no mask, I'm ready. So
Babz and I were supposed to do our first live show night at Iona, and I went down there to check out the room, and Kathy showed me around and everything, and this was on a Monday in early March.
Oh my God. And it was like Tuesday.
And New Rochelle, which was the epicenter of COVID for the country at that point. So I'm sitting there, and they closed the campus later that day. Yeah. And my kids called me up and they said to me, Dad, you're high risk. What are you doing in New Rochelle?
I felt like a walking, like something out of the old, I don't know if you guys remember the old nuclear Holocaust movie Threads that the BBC did, but they do with like a glow around people. That's how I felt. I was walking around for a month. To sneak into, I wasn't allowed to go into my office. I was sneaking in the dark of night to get my books. And so, yeah, we're going to be doing an early opening. I think some of the schools are still planning, but it looks like, most of the semesters are going to go back remote after Thanksgiving or close at Thanksgiving or around that time because of the flu season. So yeah, we're going to fit you guys in, if not in the fall, because I really, the 6 feet apart, I really want as many students to participate and be involved. But your guest panelists are really excited, and both Jeannie and Dave said to say hello, and we're really looking forward to a really
tell them we said hello back. We'll be ready. I mean, we stay ready. So whenever the world opens back up, we'll be on it.
It'll be great. I'm looking forward to it.
It's nice to see you.
Thank you,
It's
Kathy.
great to see you. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Stay safe, please.
Michael, I know you have to jump, so welcome. It's so good to see you.
You guys too. Coming to you from the New Rochelle Containment Center as well. So we're back online to see it, Iona and whatnot. Jeff and Babz, thank you so much, and everybody else for all your guys' work. It's really incredible to be a part of this, and really appreciate being here and having been on the show. Let me just make 2 quick points, because I do have to hop. I do think we are in a very unique situation in that we have the ability, almost a blank slate, where all types of solutions that were previously thrown out are now on the table, from ending qualified immunity to you name it, with regard to police reform, criminal justice reform. One thing I hope we don't forget is that we still have an incentive mechanism that makes it swimming upstream, as long as you have a drug war in place, as long as you have You're criminalizing crimes between consenting adults. All of the incentives are still going to be there for asset forfeiture and seizure, for, collars. And as long as that drug war is in place, that's what pretty much built mass incarceration. And therefore, you're going to have a militarized occupational police force versus peace officers. If you flip it on its head, and we want to have less arrests, less collars, less crimes, and everything else, you have to get rid of the drug war. I think that's one of the only ways to do it, obviously. But that's enough preaching from this end on that part. I just want to take one more minute to say I've been doing a lot of corporate training as a moonlighting job in resiliency training, mental toughness, leadership, and whatnot. As part of that, I've been building a beta, like a 6-week online course that I've been beta testing with a lot of the reentry people I've been working with over the past few years. I think it's going to be something that's interesting and valuable. As anybody knows who has served time and gotten out, it is you're like a salmon swimming upstream when you get out. It's constant slings and arrows and challenges, and without some technological 21st century skills, and even more important, without some mindset programming and upgrading to bring us out and help us, it's a really tough haul. And Jeffrey mentioned earlier, which something I found earlier extremely interesting, is that it really does have to start the day you walk into prison. As anybody who's been there knows, there's very little there that's going to help you on the outside, and a lot of dead, empty time where skills-based training, mental toughness training and everything else could be incredibly valuable. So I'm eager and optimistic to be able to complete some of these online courses and groups. I'm happy to, if anybody's interested, to show it to them. This is stuff I charge corporations for. I don't charge anybody in this field for, or anybody who's been through it before. All nonprofit, all completely gratis, and would love to get some input from anybody that thinks, it might be valuable. So love you guys. Love what you're doing. Thank you. And Jeff and Babz, looking forward to seeing everybody in person once we're past this madness.
Yes. Michael, write a blog post. We'll put it up on the website.
Okay.
I think that'd be beautiful. And frankly, everybody write blog posts. We'll put them up on the website. We'll promote them on social media. We love that. we love that. All right, Dieter, we know you got to jump. How you doing? No, you're on mute.
Oh.
No, you're good. You're good.
I'm good now?
Yeah.
All right. Good.
Hey,
doing
Peter.
phenomenal. That's what I was saying.
Peter, are you in the park? Where are you in the park?
I'm
You
in
at
the
home?
woods.
Where are you?
I'm in the woods of Connecticut. I'm out here.
You got a modeling assignment out there, Dieter?
No, that's not what this is about today. This is about all the other beautiful people on here. I see a lot of friends. And quite frankly, thank you for putting this together. It's just I've been having this reminder again and again that to me, the solution to all this is my people that have been through the system, and then are applying themselves to fix it. So I could go on and on with shout outs right now. Tahiba, Glenn, Jeff, everybody that was on this right now, Lewis, like everybody that's doing the work. I mean, thank you. I get inspired every day by what I'm seeing.
So Dieter, bring us up to date on your new bar association.
I'll bring you right up to date. All right. So my plan is to get my people in. So what we got going on right now is we just launched our NJIBA Law Students. You can check it out at njibaalawstudents.org. If I didn't say that, my communications director would crush me. And we had 20 law students on a call last Saturday that are all formerly incarcerated, and they're beasts. I can't wait to get them in the field. Savages. I talked to my boy James Foreman Jr. Like, it's all
I just had him on yesterday.
James
I just
Foreman
talked to him
Jr.
yesterday.
Oh, did he tell you about the law school fellow program?
Well, that's what he was on. He was on my show yesterday with some students that he's working with to launch the Access program. I'm so excited by this thing. What?
You and me both.
If I wasn't an old lady, I would throw my hat in the ring. I'll tell you.
More money.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't want to take up too much time. I know everybody here works hard, and I'll just say this is that we got a survey that's going to be going around in August 10th. Everybody, by the way, if you're a law school admissions officer, you'll be seeing that soon. It's going to change everything. The only other thing that I'd say is that we have a career center launching September 1st. And anybody that's a legal professional, prospective legal professional. So we're talking not just lawyers, paralegals, investigators. If you want to get a job, if you're formerly incarcerated, if you want to get a job in that field, we're going to have that career center. Don't have a date yet for a virtual career fair, but you better believe that it's coming. And I'm just excited to see it all happen. I mean, every day, the beautiful thing is that I used to think that like I wanted to get in to fix the problems myself, but that's not how it works now. What I found is that like I just see all these like just savages, Dwayne Betts, Sean Hopwood, Keita Haynes. I got to do a couple. Tara Simmons, Tahiba, Desmond, Jody Polk. Just so many people that are coming in here and fixing the problems. And I feel like now we're in a space where like powers that be, they understand that they need to talk to us if they're trying to get some real solutions. You know, if you really want to fix what's going on, it's systemic. The racism is systemic. The system is involved. If you don't fix the system, you're not fixing it. You're not fixing any of the problems that we're seeing right now. So I'm just really excited. I'm blessed to be here. I love each and every one of you. You're the best, Jeff. You too, Babz.
Thank you, dear. Nice to see you.
Thank you, Dee. The OGs love the OGs love you, man. The OGs love you.
I'm an OG now. I'm 30.
Speaking of OGs, we got Josh here, who's not quite an OG, but he's our rep to Hartford. So we need you, Josh.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Josh, how are you?
I'm doing great.
I see you got your hands full up there at the state level. Lots going on.
I actually was just up yesterday with Barbara Fair and Joseph Galen, who were fighting for Stop Solitary. So we had a good little group talking about that issue. And one fear that I have is that we try to go too broad and fix too much in this moment. But as I think about that, I don't know. I think we might be able to do a lot. And maybe not in special session, but certainly by January. So we were just on a call yesterday, and a big part of the call to the caucus was basically saying that we're really going to hyper focus on police accountability issues. But the issues of housing, issues of employment, issues of systemic racism, there's always this fear that you nip around the edges of an issue and then the air goes out of the balloon and then you can't get anything done that next session. But there's this real drive that as we're talking and legislators are talking about this issue right now, we're being very, very clear to say that anything that we're doing is a first step. And I'm hearing this from basically everybody, which lets me know that this is that inherent and implied promise to the public that don't be frustrated by the fact that, trying to get a very comprehensive bill, the Majority Leader Ritter said this a few times, we would try to be getting a 900-page bill done in the next couple of weeks and get all the deals in place for a 3 or 4 day session. So that's just impossible. On the other hand, we're still doing the work so that when we come in January, we can do it. And I've not heard anything from anybody about there being a slowing down of the process. And so we have Representative Joshua Hall from Hartford, who is on that commission for police accountability right now, who is giving suggestions over to the governor, over to Senator Winfield and Representative Porter, and certainly giving it over to Representative Brandon McGee, who's leading the BPRC who's just out in the press every day being very explicit about what we're doing and what we need to do going ahead. So the champions on this issue are just doing a phenomenal job. Representative Joe Varengia, who is he's a retired police officer, is saying what reforms are happening internally, but with whatever reforms are happening internally, we know there needs to be a lot that's done externally, that cops can't be looking out for themselves, that we need not just even civilian review boards, but we need, you know, registries to make sure that you can't just jump from one town to another. And you know, I think one of the biggest problems we're having is ensuring that our governor is not behind the curve. Because right now he's certainly not ahead of the curve, and we're having a hard time getting him up to the curve. Because he's talking about things that, you know, we were talking about 15 years ago, like and like barring chokeholds. That's not even systemic. That touches the surface about what we need to be accomplishing. So, you know, we're all just constantly, whenever he makes a misstep, all of us are piling on. You know, we can't be waiting for bipartisan support to be coming back in the session. We can't be waiting just for all these deals to be in place to come back in session. We need to be in session and pushing these things as we're there. And even in terms of support from larger organizations, like the ACLU is just doing a phenomenal job. And while David McGuire, the executive director, who's out there leading the organization, you have folk like Gus and Mel, who are part of the Smart Justice campaign. While they're focusing on things like solitary confinement and other issues during session, they're out there on all these police accountabilities, and they got transparency done last year, which was just phenomenal. And then there's just so much more to do, but it's really exciting, and I see that the energy is finally there, and it's this turning point where somebody who's only ever known about these things academically and been supportive, and now I can be in a role after having been elected for a few years. There really is this shift where you know, CJR became something that was, you know, over the last 6 or 7 years much more heightened, and people were so much more aware of it. And now I think we're finally able to capitalize on it. So I'm hopeful, I'm optimistic, not making any promises, but I think that for special session, we're going to get a surprising amount done in the field of police accountability specifically, and then we're going to be able to address a whole number of issues come January.
I'm glad to hear it.
Josh, thank you.
This is a good moment.
Yes.
Josh has already signed up to be our guest the third Friday of September. So
wait,
and we have a lot of guests signed up already. I'm not going to use up time. So we got Danny, Jackie, Charlie, Andrew K, then Lewis, and then Babz and I got to wrap up. So guys, you got like 3 minutes, 2 minutes apiece. All right. So Danny, please go.
I'll start by saying happy June. And hey, I'm so glad to be here with you all. Greetings from New Haven. In terms of updates, you know, the youth voice is loud. It is roaring. The need for concern about youth justice issues is still on the front of my mind as it speaks to reform here in the state of Connecticut, you know, and so I'm at the University of New Haven. I represent the Department of Criminal Justice, and I'm also the Director of Research of the Tau Youth Justice Institute. At the state level, we have our Juvenile Justice Policy Oversight Committee. It's my task to continue to inform that research agenda. And while we have already had a focus on racial and ethnic disparity, I can just say personally that, you know, everyone has an opportunity to perform a gut check to challenge their privilege, not just white people. And in my opportunity in areas, I'm really thinking about how what I'm researching not only amplifies voices of those most marginalized by our justice system, but also gets back to those people. I think that's really the piece that I have to recommit to, is the communication into public sector, the things that we are learning and finding. Because on one hand, there has been progress, but on the other hand, there's so much more work to do. There's so much opportunity for reform in our state. I think the other piece that I'll just speak to is the education sector of individuals who are criminal justice professionals. That's another core piece of the work that I do. I'm really, once again, already committed to classes that really speak to injustice, but I see a higher need for those classes. Our students have really been articulating their own platforms and concerns to us around criminal justice education. And so I think programs like yours continue to give us real world discussions that we can infuse into our classrooms and our students so we can challenge them to be better professionals, so that they don't have to be professionals that we have to train and correct and make better, after they've made a mistake. But we have this time, especially while they are still developing in the profession, to really show them their role in creating justice, their role in maintaining integrity, and their role in promoting advocacy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. And
Dr. Cooper.
And hugs and kisses to everyone at University of New Haven and the Tau Youth Justice Institute. We love you all. All right, we got to jump to Jackie. From you, Jackie.
Morning, everybody. First, I will say a little shout out to Mike Waller for putting up with my tweets at him all the time.
Hey, Jack.
His numbers. How are you? I'm from Evolution Reentry, and I have to thank Serena, because I agree 100% with Serena. We have to work with a lot of the correction officers and working in modifying and educating them. And Danielle, the same with you. I typically right now am working on going to colleges and universities and educating the people and the children and the kids that are going to soon be our leaders and legislators. I think that's a big, important push right now. I work primarily with white collar women and have always worked with white collar women as I went to prison for that. However, we've made a little change and we now work with all nonviolent women that are in federal prison. Right now we have 11,000 women in federal prison. I'm working currently with 32 that have come home, and the inconsistencies of halfway house versus home confinement is really alarming to me. I have women that are in halfway houses for a year that have a home, have a place to go to, have a family. And then I have women that are coming home, going directly to home confinement. We also are currently working to find our very first house in New Haven. We've been seeking out houses and virtually doing the tours.
Oh, that's so exciting.
There's not enough halfway houses. There's one federal halfway house in Connecticut.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think women, to me, it seems if you're at a camp level in a federal prison, you should be at home doing home confinement with your children. It is so important to be there for your children. These women are taken away and they've had non-violent crimes. And to me, it's an injustice putting them in a camp level. I did 7 months in a camp, and quite frankly, and I hate to say this, and I know the women that are in the camp would probably be angry, but it was the most stress-free time of my life. And I could have been doing so much more good home, paying my restitution, being there for my 3 children that were going through college at the time. So I'm very passionate about this halfway house home confinement issue and the inconsistencies that are going on there. And I really think it's important. So we're putting together a proposal for the federal government for a halfway house in Connecticut that is only for women. I have 15 of those 32 women in halfway houses right now across the country, and they are in male-female halfway houses where they're not allowed to lock their doors at night, and they're fearful. Yeah. And they're with a lot of other federal prisoners that are men and women, and I don't think that works. I don't think a halfway house housing men and women with maybe 1 or 2 people manning the ship overnight is a positive thing for this country. And I thank all of you, because this is the time to make changes. I agree with all of you. Lewis and I had recently a conversation regarding policy versus social work. I'm not a policy person. I'm first to stay in my lane. I am social work. And I think that we together, policy people and social work and education need to now come together more than ever to work together and make those changes happen. So I thank all of you. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Babz. I love both of you.
Thank you.
Love you too. Love you too.
Thank you, Jack. Jackie's one of my speaking partners in the college circuit. We're speaking at Albertus Magnus in a few weeks virtually, but thank you, Jackie. All right, we got Charlie and the Connecticut Hall of Change person among the 100 other things you do.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Hey, Charlie. How are you?
What's going on? Sister Babz, you know I'm going to borrow those glasses on Friday night when I hit the club. You know I got to see you. Jeff and Babz, you don't tell me you have celebrities on these calls. I'm looking at David Bowie here. You have him named Andrew, but he's really David Bowie.
Yeah. Andrew needs a haircut.
He looks like a star. And you know, again, speaking of glasses, Louis, I see you too. I will be borrowing those on Thursday. So quickly, I just really came on, and I apologize for being late. I was on another call with a newly formed task force that I wanted to sort of bring everybody up to speed on. As you have already been speaking about, this is a movement, not just a moment, that we need to really get things done. I actually am tired of talking about what's wrong with the system and what needs to be done about the system. So if you've noticed an absence of my voice in recent over the Floyd incident and the reforms that are needed in police, know that I am not absent. I am working. I'm tired of talking. It's just that I'm really tired of talking. And anybody who knows me well enough knows that I'd rather be boots on the ground working and making things happen than to have a meeting to talk about the next meeting to then talk about the next meeting. So just keep that in mind. I want to thank Babz and Jeff for always giving all of us a platform to speak about what we do and what we're passionate about and the changes that we intend to make and are making on our system that is clearly a mess. And it hasn't just become a mess in the past few weeks. We all know that in the work that we do. One of the things that I also need to let you know is this new task force is put together by Deirdre Daley, former U.S. attorney for the state of Connecticut. And it has some real teeth in the people that make up the task force. My role, my goal in the entire task force that she's put together is to make sure that Black and brown law enforcement voices are heard collectively. And that has a tendency to create some division in people's minds. It's not intended to create division. What it's intended to do is to capitalize on the hundreds of years of experience of Black and brown police officers working in a system that doesn't like them either. The system doesn't like them as much as the community despises officers for being in that system that are of color. So it's a very difficult juggling act for law enforcement members of color also to be a part of the community they live in and so forth. So I won't talk much further about that, but understand that for me, it's important to speak what I know. 36 years in this game, I wear multiple hats. I work in the reentry world as passionately as I work in the law enforcement circles. But the idea is it's time for me to speak out about what I know is wrong with the law enforcement judicial systems and to actually make change in those systems rather than just talk about it. So that's what I'm on. And before I turn over to whoever else is next, I just wanted to officially on this call congratulate Sister Babz Rawls for being one of the first inductees in the history of Connecticut and maybe the country into the Hall of Change. And very
honored to be there.
Well deserving. We had so many fantastic candidates that were submitted, and it was the most difficult. We didn't really expect there to be such a challenge in deciding who was going to be the first to be named the Great Eight of Connecticut. And Babz was one of those that made it in there. But all those people that made it into the finals will be considered immediately for next year. We had to postpone our celebratory dinner and award ceremony, but I believe that by September, we're going to start to put this thing back together. And, hopefully Jeff and Babz will allow me to come on the show and talk a little bit about where we're headed with the thing. Because I appreciate all of you guys for what you're doing, and keep up the great work. I love seeing your faces. I love hearing the passion. I love seeing the work that you're doing. Suji, keep it up. Aileen, keep it up. Lou, Jackie, all of you keep it up. And with that being said, I'll pass the mic.
Yeah, Charlie, if you're going to hand Babz an award, you can come on every week. Here's the truth, folks. Here's the truth, folks. What was supposed to happen was they were supposed to have the award show. Then the next day, Charlie was supposed to come on the show and talk about the award show. And then, of course, COVID hit. So Babz and I and Charlie have been sitting on this information now for all these months, busting. But I'm glad you announced it. We're so proud of Babz. So
I'm proud
of
I have a new dress, so I need to get my new dress worn.
Oh, shoot. And I'm sure there's a different pair of glasses that'll match that dress too.
Oh, you already know.
Go ahead, girl. Go ahead with your bad self. Go ahead.
All right. We're going to jump to Andrew. Then we're going to wrap it up with Lewis, and then Babz and I will say a few words on the way out. So, Andrew, you've been sitting there so patient. We're so happy to see you.
All right. So I'll be very brief. I mean, I remember.
Hey, Andrew Kaplan.
Hey, Babz, good to see you. It's
nice to see you with your pretty hair.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Charlie. But I just want to say all this was new to me 5 years ago when I started to work with Jeff and Babz to promote the Justice Imperative book about mass incarceration in Connecticut. And I had no idea what to expect. But over the years, I was able to meet some amazing people, Charlie Grady, people have spent time inside. And I'm overwhelmed and humbled by their hard work and their dedication and their tenacity. And I've learned so much, and I've seen so much, and I've seen things and learned things I never knew before. And for me, it's been amazing to just meet people, and I'm humbled to call some of them my friends. So I love you all. Thank you all so much. I think good things are ahead of us. I really do.
I love you, Andrew Kaplan. You have my heart.
We both love you, and you're the only one on this call who Babz is assigned a hashtag to.
No, when I go on the porch, I think I get a hashtag.
No, Andrew gets an unhashtag.
Because Andrew is the infamous unboyfriend joy. Because he's always my partner in crime. If I got to go somewhere, he's always on my arm. He's always supportive. And so, and I just, he's such a good sport to sort of just show up the stuff and just, be wonderful and supportive of me and Jeff. And he listens to us and, and we run stuff by him. And so he's really our guy. So
we love you.
I love you guys.
We love you, Andrew. And you make great eggs, Andrew.
Oh yeah, my Leo. Yes, my lox, eggs, and onions. Right. Anytime. Bring a mask. I'll cook some more.
Right, we're gonna wrap it up with Lewis, and then Babz and
because I know Harry is about to shut us all the way down.
All right, Lewis, you got a minute. Go for it.
Yeah. So as we were having this conversation, I was reflecting on my relationship with Jeff. I was thinking about something that MLK said, actually. He talked about how in the situation with the Good Samaritan, the Levite and the priest walked by the person that was injured, the person that was in need. And they said, if I attend to this guy's need, what is going to happen to me? But the Good Samaritan walked towards the guy, and he said, if I don't attend to this guy, what is going to happen to him? And a few years ago, and I know that I hear the Reverend Al in my head, kind of saying, don't say it, but I'm going to say it anyways. Because he always says, once you turn a corner, if other people are in your rearview mirror, leave them there. But a few years ago, several years back, when I needed people the most, one of the less than few handful of people that literally stood with me, that created space for me, that was there for me, literally in my time of need while I was on the side of the road hurting. It was Jeff. And while I am in spaces, you know, connected with folks who, you know, have a lot of celebrity and they have a lot of influence and they have a lot of power, there's a Bible verse that says, do not despise the day of small beginnings. And so for me, the reset for where I am was at that moment in my life when I had to leave the city of Bridgeport under fire, and few people tended to the wounds that I was going through when I was on the side of the road. And one of those few people was Jeff Grant. So I just wanted to publicly acknowledge you being there for me. I can tell you that literally, if it were not for you meeting me during, you know, our breakfast sessions, and you calling me in the middle of the night, just checking on me. I can tell you, man, I wouldn't be here, man. So I love you, my brother. I appreciate you. My grandmama used to say, everybody related ain't family, and everybody you're family with, you don't have to be related to. And you and I will forever be family. So I appreciate both you and Lynn.
Amen.
That's lovely, Lewis. And,
there's nobody better on the planet than Jeff Grant. There's nobody in the world that I'd want to do
Babz
this with.
Rawls-Ivy.
And you've been my friend and my brother, and I love you, love you, love you. Can't nobody talk bad about you but me. So
Babz, we got the big one under our belt today, Babz, didn't we? This is unbelievable.
3 years. We've been in it, and they said it wouldn't last, but here we are. So
thank you
to the Community Foundation for Greater New Haven. This has been a real labor of love for us and for you, and I hope that they appreciate the work that we put into this, and I appreciate all the people that have come on this show and shared their gifts and talents and resources with us.
Babz, I love you so much, and we'll have you and the unboyfriend up for a barbecue soon, and let's bounce. We got to go.
Thank you, Harry Droz.
Thank you, Harry.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul Bass.
Cue the music and we're good. Thank you, everybody.
scary. Yeah.
Dot org.
Dot org.